So what exactly is a surfactant? Why should I care? What could it do for my truck? Well, stick around. We're going to talk about that today. So a surfactant is a product that will break down the surface tension of water. And you may ask, what does the surface tension have to do with anything? Well, surface tension in water is like when you were a kid and you would fill up a glass and you could see just that water was a little bit too high in the glass. It should be pouring over the top, but it's not. Well, that's surface tension. That's the surface tension of water holding that water in the glass. Now, also when you would eat your Cheerios and you got 3 or 4 stray Cheerios left in the bowl floating in the milk, they would all congregate together, kind of float off to one side. They would push off to the side. That's the surface tension pushing those Cheerios together. It's easier to break the surface tension in one spot than several throughout the bowl. It's also the concept of when you do a belly flop into a pool, why it hurts so bad, because you got to break that surface tension of the water. So a surfactant will break down the surface tension in that water. And you might ask, well, why do we need to do that? Well, first of all, let's say surface tension is good in most fluids, like in oil. You want surface tension, you want tensile strength, shear strength, so you would never use a product like this in your oil. But in water, if you can break down that surface tension, that water can get really good contact with your block and going through your head and help dissipate that heat faster. Okay, so I learned about surfactants maybe 15 years ago in the farming. We would use it on fields to help get water penetration into the soil better and nutrient penetration to help the water permeate better into the soil, get the nutrients to the roots of the crops. Never dawned on me that this type of thing could be used in something like an automobile. Never thought another thing about it. Now, not all surfactants are the same. Obviously, you would not use a crop surfactant in your automobile, and not even all automobile surfactants are the same. Okay, you may have seen some different products, not all the same. So, this product is made by Amsoil. It's called Dominator Coolant Boost. It was first made for auto racing because in a lot of race tracks, you're not allowed to use antifreeze in the car. You got to use straight water. Well, when you use straight water, you lose a lot of properties of the coolant. So this coolant boost will replace the properties, and it's not hazardous like the antifreeze is, because race cars, they blow a lot of coolant lines, they crash, they spill antifreeze all over, and you can't have that on a track. It's bad for the environment, and it's hard to clean up. So this Dominator Coolant Boost, let's just read what it says on the bottle here. Improves heat transfer for increased horsepower and reliability. Compatible with all water sources and radiators, and they do mean all. So if it's in your radiator, this is compatible with it, no matter the color, extended life, you know, traditional, green, red, purple, whatever. Lowers engine temps up to 25 degrees. Now this stuff was designed, like I said, for race cars, okay? It's also very good to use in passenger vehicles, and I have seen the tests that back up these claims in passenger vehicles. They don't necessarily market it to over-the-road trucks, and I wanted to know why. So I called Amsoil, and he says, well, it'll still work, but the results aren't as good in an over-the-road diesel truck. Which I'm like, okay, well, I'm still going to try it because, like I said, I'm keeping this truck as long as I can. I want the best products in it, and I'm going to try it. So I ordered a case of it. Now, you can go on and you can watch these tests done with this product on YouTube. And so there's a couple things here that you got to understand. Number one, it will cause your car to heat up more quickly on startup, okay? But then it will cause your vehicle to run cooler. Going down the road, we say, how can it get it to run hotter and cooler at the same time? It doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't cause your car to warm up faster. Well, it does, but not in the way you think. It's not causing it to make heat. When your engine starts, this is transferring the heat better away from your block. It warms up the coolant, which then your temperature sensors read, so it's reading warmer coolant. It's transferring the heat better. That's what's helping you warm up faster. When you're going down the road, it helps, still helping dissipate that heat, so that lower operating temperatures, okay? Heat dissipation is a big deal in these trucks, especially the emissions ones. If you ever heard of the Maintenance Council, I read a bulletin from them one time. If you don't know who it is, the Maintenance Council is a group of automotive professionals muckety mucks that set recommended practices and maintenance standards for the trucking industry. And I read a bulletin by them one time that said up to 60% of engine failure is caused by coolant problems. And it didn't really set in with me right away, but you know, after thinking about it for a while, like, boy, you better take care of your coolant system. And that could be any related coolant problem. So maybe, you know, a guy should be looking for something. This also has additional corrosion inhibitors, things that your antifreeze already have. You'll just be adding more. We're going to try this. Now, I understand thermostats. You're just going to say, well, your thermostat's going to kick in, bring the temperature down, open up, bring the temperature down anyway. Yes, I'm talking about just regular operating temperature going down the road. We need to see if there's a change. Obviously, you still have a radiator, thermostats, things like that to cool the truck down. But we want to see if there's any difference, because dissipating heat is a big deal. So I got a load here from Wisconsin to North Carolina. And from North Carolina, I'm coming right back. So at some point, I'm going to add this into the coolant, let it circulate for a good long while, and then check temperatures again. I'll video all this. And this will take, my truck's going to take 3 bottles of this. Let's just see if there's anything else here on the label we need to talk about. Helps prevent corrosion. Compatible with all water sources, including distilled, bottle, and tap water. Shortens warm-up time, safe for use with antifreeze mixes. So let's give this a try and see what we think. Something I forgot to mention is this surfactant is slightly different than most. This is a 3-tiered surfactant. It has a low temperature surfactant, medium, and high temperature. Most of your coolant additive surfactants only are just a straight across the board one temperature, and it would usually be a high temperature. So this is going to work at every temperature level. So let's give it a try. Hey guys, so I'm on I-40, traveling across I-40 in North Carolina on my way back to Wisconsin. I got a 44,000 pound load. Outside temperature is 72 degrees. It's quite humid, it keeps trying to rain. I got the camera on my scan gauge here so you can see my temperature, my water temperature. The reason I'm doing this at night is because I tried filming this first part during the day and the lighting just sucks and you can't read my gauges. So I'm going to do this tonight. What I'm going to do is, well, first of all, this truck is a rock solid 184 to 188 degrees. It stays there pretty much, you know, fairly level ground. That's the range it runs in, like clockwork. If I start to pull a little grade, it'll go 180, you know, 190, 192, but then it'll drop back to 182 and then settle back into its range again. So it's very predictable. Obviously, if I go into a longer or a hard pull, it'll go higher than that. But this truck runs fairly cool in the first place. So what I'm going to do is, sorry for the shaky camera work. The priority is the road here. I'm driving, and first priority is watching what I'm doing here. So what I'm going to do is I got to stop up here in Asheville area and get some fuel, and then I'm going to let the truck sit and cool for about an hour. You never want to open a hot radiator system. And then I'm going to put the coolant boost in, and then we're going to go trucking again tonight. And here, I'll put it on the road here. Oh, you can't see nothing anyways. And then because I want to get the same road conditions, weather conditions, temperature, humidity, I want to do this all in one night for a fair comparison, and we'll see if there's any difference in temperatures or if I notice any difference at all in the truck. So I'm going to do all that, and then I'll let it mix in. Once I put it in, I'll start driving, let her mix in good for at least an hour, you know, circulate, whatever, and then we'll check all these temperatures again and see if anything at all happened. Here you can see right below my scan gauge, you can see my analog gauge, and it runs right on par with the scan gauge. So we will be back in a little while. Alright, we're just finishing up adding our 3rd bottle here. Got her all in there good. If you have an older truck, some of them have a cap too, you could add it right to the radiator, but getting into this surge tank here will be just fine. It'll still circulate. And I'm gonna close her up here, get back on the road, give her some time to mix in good. And before we give any judgment, just a tip too, every few years replace your pressure cap here, and write down you'll look at it someday, write down what pressure it is. I have a 15-pound cap. Replace it every so often. Those little things can if that cap goes bad, it can cause some goofy things to happen with your truck. So it doesn't hurt to replace them every once in a while. And then sometimes you lose them caps, or if you go to get your truck serviced and the guy don't put it back on, then you'll know what the proper size or proper pressure cap it is that you need for your truck. I'm just going to leave the camera on the scan gauge here best I can while I'm driving. First thing I noticed, rather than spending a lot of time in that 184 to 188 range like I did before that we talked about, I spend a lot more time 182 to 186. You can see here I'm going into a hard pull. Well, not a hard pull, I'm sorry, like a rolling hill. You can tell that because my fuel mileage dropped down to 3.3. And I did hit that 188, but only for a couple seconds. I'm 186, whereas before in a rolling hill I was 190, 192. So you can see I hit that 188 again, but it don't stay there for but a few seconds before she drops back down. And I'm seeing the 182 number a lot more. So if I had to make an honest judgment, I would say I'd drop 2 degrees on the low side, 2 degrees on the high side. So I could say I'd probably say I dropped 2 degrees, which I did not expect anything really. Outside conditions are the same. Instead of 72 degrees to 71 degrees. Humidity is still freaking high. Road conditions are the same. It still keeps trying to rain and stuff. But I'm not seeing that 190, 192 anymore when I go into a rolling hill. Here you can see I'm doing it again. I hit 188 for a few seconds and I'm back to 186. You can tell when I hit a hill because that fuel economy on the right there, the real time drops down to in the 3s. So you can tell I'm not pulling your leg or anything. At any rate, I didn't really expect that. I'm interested to see what happens when I go into a long hard pull, and I will have one coming up north of Knoxville there just before I go into Kentucky. So I don't think I'm going to film that because this is not the right thing to do here, being doing this going down the road. So I have some more comments on it here coming up in a little bit. All right, I'm back from my trip where I added this Dominator Coolant Boost to my truck, and I had a day or so to think about it, to think about what I wanted to say, what I thought of it, to kind of prepare my thoughts. And I just wanted to go over that. Now, I feel pretty confident in saying that I dropped about 1 to 2 degrees of normal operating temperature, which, let's be honest, is statistically insignificant. It's not meaningful. However, and I was prepared to say that it was a bust, but after thinking about it more, well, first I thought, if you had an emissions truck, EGR, you know, DPF, DEF, you got a lot more heat going under the hood and through your system. And I thought, you know, what good is 1 degree or 2 degrees going to do for that? But then I thought, well, more heat. I'm thinking something like this would be even more critical, because I got to thinking it over, and you know, the coolant not only goes through your engine block, things like that, but you know, on an emissions truck you have EGR cooler, circulates coolant. Obviously all trucks, it circulates through your oil cooler, and then on my truck I circulate coolant through my transmission. So you get a lot of heat to transfer and disperse out of these trucks, and I'm thinking every little bit matters, especially, you know, since I said the maintenance council says that something like 60% of engine failure is due to different coolant problems. So I am going to continue to use this. I didn't think I was, but after thinking about that, 1 to 2 degrees normal operating temperature, not much. But what I did notice is when I go up a hill, the truck doesn't get quite as hot and it recovers faster. I dissipate that heat faster and the temperature comes down faster. That was noticeable. 1 to 2 degrees, not so much, not so noticeable. But that recovery time, definitely noticeable. And I guess with the fuel mileage, you know, it claims to help you with fuel mileage. Something like this is not going to just improve your fuel mileage. It's not going to happen. But then I got to thinking about that. If I'm recovering those temperatures faster, and my engine fan is turning off sooner, well, engine fans suck horsepower and rob you of fuel mileage. So you could see a residual increase in fuel economy with something like this. However, I don't know if it would necessarily be measurable. But hey, this stuff isn't very expensive, and I'm guessing it's probably, you know, given those circumstances and thinking about it, it's probably, you know, at least a break even. And plus, if you're dissipating that heat faster, I would say it's a money ahead. So with that, you know, not getting as hot on the hills and recovering faster, that means a lot to me. And I'd be very interested to see what it does on an emissions truck, if it's even a noticeable difference. Even if it's not noticeable, the science is right to me. The technology makes sense. So if you have an emissions truck and you try it, kind of let me know. I'd like to know. It's not a big investment. It's because I have a wholesale account, I'm not allowed to discuss pricing and what I paid for things. So, but I will say it's very cheap. But you do have to re-add it every 30,000 miles. So that's not that bad. Every 3 months. So I'm going to continue to use it. And I also, because of the fact that I saw some results, I put it in my reefer. And I'm going to put it in every one of my automobiles. Everything that I have is liquid cooled. Several of them first I need to change the antifreeze because they're due anyway. And then I'm going to add this in. So that's my review of this product. And I think it's worth giving it a try. So if you try it, let me know if you get the results from it. And we'll see you next time.